Welcome to the Atlanta Football Party, your home for the best Falcons football talk. It's local insight you can't get anywhere else but right here on Locked On. I am your host, Tenitra Batiste, and alongside me are Jarvis Davis, Aaron Freeman, and Tori McElhaney. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get 200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/locked on to get started. Well, team, it's a party. It's a party. It's a party. When the Falcons get a W, a 21-19 win over the Texans to improve to 3-2 on the season. But listen, there's so much to get into, so much good to get into this week versus, say, last week. So let's get into it with the top three takeaways with JD, Free, and Tori. Start with you, Jarvis. Your top giveaway or takeaway, rather. No giveaways this time around. The final stats on the ground don't actually tell the story.
Yeah, like if I didn't know the outcome of this game and I just went by and looked at the stats for an Arthur Smith led team and I saw that, you had 31 carries for under 100 yards from your running backs, and you're just like, excuse me, yeah, how did they win this game? Right. You know what I'm saying? Because it just looked, and then I kind of scroll on up and you go to what Desmond Ridder ended up with threw the ball 37 times. What? And they won the game, and he was efficient. He had 28 completions. He had a touchdown, threw a touchdown. He ran for a touchdown. No turnovers. That would be the ideal situation. That's what Arthur Smith and we kind of talked about this on the postcast too. Like, that is the ideal situation when Arthur Smith was coming up with a vision for his team, and they were sitting in that doggone boardroom and trying to figure out if they're gonna take Desmond Ridder or not. They said, you know what, we can get this guy, get him to distribute the ball like a point guard. I love that analogy that Aaron used on the postcast. If you can just distribute the ball, get him about 10, 12 assists a game, and get those players into the end zone and get that running game going, that would be absolutely perfect. And that's what we saw. For him to be able to come down there with less than 2 minutes left in the game, for him to kind of march that ball down the field, it was a beautiful sight to see. So yeah, the running game did not tell the story, and I really feel like Desmond Ridder, he wrote that mug on Sunday.
Yeah, I feel like Des Ridder got rid of his distractors on some level, and I know we're going to talk about it a little bit more, but Tori, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to make a point about that real quick, because it's not just the fact that Des, I think, had the production that he did, but it was the way that production happened in the pass game. The fact that 11 different guys, if you include Tyler Allgeier's 2-point conversion catch, 11 different pass catchers for the Falcons on Sunday. And that is exactly what I feel like we've been hearing from guys since OTAs, that they want to be a team. Arthur Smith talks about this whole concept of positionless football. And you had running backs, receivers, tight ends, and your fullback. Can't forget Keith Smith and that 28-yard catch or whatever it was. One of the best, I think, thrown balls Desmond Ridder had all day. Mm-hmm. All of these guys were involved. Almost every guy you had an opportunity to throw the ball to had a catch. So that to me just speaks, I think, to not only the progress that we've seen, but let's not overlook the way that Desmond Ridder is kind of coming into his own within the scheme and what he's being asked to do by Arthur Smith. Because going back to what Jarvis was saying, this is exactly what this team wants to be in the pass game, where they are using every weapon at their disposal. So I just wanted to add that for sure.
No, I love it. I love it because that was one of the things that when we talked on Postcast last night, like, I kept looking back and double checking, because I said, I think that this literally says 10, technically, but like you said, the 11th with the 2-point conversion. And I was like, that is one of those sneaky good stats that as the year wears on is going to really, really show itself to be in the Falcons' favor, because when they talk about, like you said, the positionless football, but also when they talk about having multiple weapons, we finally really started to see it come into fruition and see it on display. And Aaron, that's why you're able to then see play action pass, play action work.
Yes. Yeah, because, Jarvis talking about the run game not working, and I think a lot of people assume, well, you got to run the football in order to open up the play action. And, the Falcons were committed to running the football, but it wasn't really that effective. But it did help them open up their play action passing game. Desmond Ridder, according to Pro Football Focus, was 10 for 11 for 163 yards this week just off play action passes. I looked it up, and if you look at their 10 longest plays, all 16 plus yard gains, 6 of those came off of play action. You saw some to Kyle Pitts, Mac Hollins, Keith Smith, Jonnu Smith, Michael Pruitt, Drake London. So that is another testament to them spreading the ball around. And this was the first week that the play action really worked, right? Because like prior to this week, like if you look at the PFF numbers for the play action, like Desmond Ridder was like bottom 5 when you looked at like the grade off of play action and then like his yards per attempt off of play action. So they were not able to generate really any explosive plays. And that was one of the issues that this offense and this passing offense was having in the first month of the season. But this week, Desmond Ridder was the number 2 highest graded play action passer, only behind Lamar Jackson with like an over 90 grade. And he was number 3 in yards per attempt off of play action with 14.8. And you go back to what Ryan Tannehill did in his breakout year in 2019 in that first year where Arthur Smith was calling the plays. And I think he averaged over like 13 yards per attempt on play action, which is a really high number. Because like usually if you go back and look at like Matt Ryan, like he was only averaging like 9 or so yards per attempt. So that number is like, I think, exactly what this Arthur Smith offense wants to be. We're talking about distributing the football to multiple playmakers and being able to get those intermediate and vertical gains for chunk yardage off of the play action. And even when the running game isn't working, if you can do that in the passing game, it will balance things out and allow this offense to get in positions to succeed.
Yeah, and all you have to do is have it be respectable. I mean, if you can hover around that 2.83 yards per carry situation, I think that's you're good to go. Obviously, the optimal would be somewhere in the 4.5 to 5 yards per carry range. But again, it was just about keeping the Texans honest, because once you were able to keep them honest, then you kept them on their toes. Just like the trickery that we saw, like I absolutely loved it. I was like, look at Drake London. Like this is not a 9 to 5 the way we would expect to see it, but it worked. And I loved it. And I think it's because, Tori, you gave the perfect verbiage. So I'm not going to even like try to say it the way you did. I just want to call it trust, because it's about trust on offense. It's about trust on defense. It's about trust the process, but it's your word. It's about trust.
Yeah, I think for everything that we've been talking about, we've been talking a lot about this offense, and for good reason too, because this is the first time that, even though they didn't have, I think, the overall production that they wanted, I think because of those 2 fumbles, you feel differently about those drives that they were putting together that kind of led up to that point. And so for me, when I'm looking at this game, I'm also trying to look at this game through the lens of the defense. And this was something that I talked about post-game. And also it not just in what I wrote post-game, but also just in our own podcast in-house. But like when I'm looking at this game, particularly from a minute 49 until the end of the very game, that very, very last drive, I'm honestly looking at that drive through the lens of this defense. This defense has been as good as a defense has been in Atlanta for a very long time. And I feel like we've talked about this now for 4 weeks. We feel like there is something special with this defense, even though sack numbers aren't there, even though maybe turnovers aren't there. This is a defense that shows up and makes a play. Now, that is not something we've necessarily felt from this offense after chance and chance and chance that they've had from the defense coming up with a third down stop and giving the ball back to them. There hasn't been offensive answers to reward defensive stops up to this point, especially in those 2 losses against Detroit and Jacksonville. So when the Falcons get the ball back and they are down by 1 and they have to go win this game, if I'm the defense, I'm like, look, like we just gave up a touchdown. That's on us. We didn't want to do that, but like, let's put our trust in. We trust you guys to go win this game for us. And this was the first time that I felt like that trust, like that there was a moment where I can kind of point to where it's like, that's a moment that built trust between units, because the offense did what they needed to do. And they had the back of their defense for maybe the first time in what feels like a long time. And even Drake London said in post-game locker room, it's like, we feel like as an offense to a certain extent, like we have let down the defense a little bit. But to go out there and put this drive together, even though it ended in a field goal and maybe not, a touchdown, it still won them the game. Desmond Ridder was 5 for 5 on that drive. Like this is all important in the sense of building trust and camaraderie between units that, hey, y'all got our back, we got yours. We can go out and get and win this game for us.
Yeah, and to see him, and I think in addition to those 5 for 5, going 5 for 5 on that drive, I think it was the fact that, the wealth, it was like spread the wealth on it as well. But yeah, I wanted to go back to something I know I mentioned I was going to talk about it at the top of the segment, but to wrap up the segment, I still want to hit on it because we've all been covering the Falcons for a number of years, and we have seen moments in time where you've gone into the Benz or previously the Georgia Dome and felt like, yep, this ain't it. And yesterday, even after that touchdown, I will admit, I paused for a moment. I was like, darn, that's a kind of a bummer because, the defense has played a stellar game. But I will be honest, I never thought that the Falcons were out of it either. I always thought there was an opportunity that they were going to put a drive together. And I think that's important that you mentioned Tori as well, because it was a game-winning drive. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter that it didn't result into a touchdown, because let's just face it, they could have. They were deep enough. They were in the low red zone. They could have gone for a touchdown. It would have been fine. But to me, I think it's more of the setup of the mindset of, okay, we can trust these guys to drive down the field and win a game for us. I think that's a critical piece. And then to see what happened in the stadium, like they figured out, hey, today we're the 12th man and we're going to do our job. I thought that was excellent as well. So yeah, just an all-around effort on the field, on the sidelines, in the stands yesterday for the 21-19 win. Now, we're going to talk a little bit more when we come back about 9, because there's some excitement about 9, but also we're going to talk a little bit about if we're concerned about protection for 9. But before we get into that conversation, Jarvis is going to tell us a little bit about FanDuel.
Folks, listen up. Jarvis Davis here for FanDuel. I got something to tell y'all. For all you new customers, yes, all the people who haven't gone to FanDuel just yet, I've been talking about it for a very long time. If you hadn't gone, I'm starting to wonder about you and your decision-making in life. So here's what I need you to do. It's new customers. You're going to get $200 in bonus bets. Yes, I said that. Guaranteed, when you place a $5 bet, that's $200 in bonus bets. Win or lose. Guess what you use the bonus bets for? You can bet on the spreads, the money lines, the over-unders, the props, all that good stuff. I'm telling you, all the good information right there just for you. FanDuel is safe, secure, super easy to use. You don't have to worry about anybody getting your information. So all you got to do is just go to FanDuel.com/locked-on. Yes, that's FanDuel.com/locked-on. I'm telling you, the Falcons at home are guaranteed your money, man. Go ahead and jump that bad boy off. Now, you still chance you lose, but it's a good deal to bet on the Falcons at home. So go to FanDuel.com/locked-on and kick off the NFL season, because FanDuel is the official sportsbook betting partner of the NFL.
All right, guys, this is definitely a week of excitement because we're having a conversation where we're leaning more into being confident versus being concerned. That's what we always talk about in our deep dive, if we have a space there. And listen, we've got one confident, we've got one concern, but listen, if you want to add any more, please chime in, because this is a week where I think we can all agree there's a lot to be confident about. So started talking about Des Ridder in the previous segment, talking about how, hey, this could arguably be his best game as a Falcon, going 28-37, 329 yards, 1 passing touchdown, another one on the ground, no picks. And when you put that together, performance-wise, you only had 6 quarterbacks to do it, right? 6 quarterback performances. Matt Ryan had half of them, but Bobby Hebert had one, as well as Chris Chandler, and now you're putting Des Ridder in that conversation as well. So I think that's pretty rare air, if you will, as far as the Falcons franchise goes. But I wonder, Tori, if it's rare air enough such that we can have confidence that Dez's performance is a sign that he's turning the corner.
Yeah, I think that's the hope, right? Like, that's the hope that this was a moment that we can look back on and maybe at the end of the season be like, the Texans game, it really changed things for how we view this offense and how we view Desmond Ridder as the leader of this offense. And so I think that's the hope. You want to be able to look at this game, and especially in the context, okay, you got the Washington Commanders coming in next week. Can the Falcons recreate what kind of they had in terms of offensive production, and can they build upon that? Because going back to what I was saying before, it's like we can talk about Desmond Ridder all day long, but at the end of the day, the Falcons offense still needs more production to kind of help itself feel a little bit better about moving in the right direction. I think we're taking steps in that direction for sure. And I think there was a huge question mark. I think about the pressure that was on Desmond Ridder in the week leading up to this game against the Texans. There was a lot of questions surrounding him and his status as QB1. And I think he answered it in the context of those 4 quarters. Like, hey, you can put this team on my back. And even if the run game's not working, even if they're selling out for the run and they're making me throw it, I'm going to go hit Kyle Pitts and Drake London, and we're going to do some things. And this is going to be an exciting offense. Now, does that translate beyond the scope of those 4 quarters that we just saw happen? And I think that's where the question is, because if I'm just going off of what these 4 quarters are, it's like, yeah, I'm definitely confident that this is a team that's on the up and up again. And you take away those 2 fumbles, and maybe we're looking at a much different score anyways. But there are still areas that it's like, okay, when the Falcons get or when the Texans jump off sides and they get encroachment calls, there wasn't a lot of answers from the Falcons after those calls. So how do you capitalize on mistakes made by the defense? These are all things that you want to see them take steps in the right direction. So looking ahead, it's like, if you can show me that you can do this consistently, then yeah, I'm going to be confident, because actions speak louder than words.
Yeah. And Aaron, I will say,
I was just want to add to kind of what Tori was saying to you. The relationship between Kyle Pitts and Desmond Ridder, I feel like has come into a lot of questions, right? To the point where we're questioning whether or not Kyle Pitts is healthy, and I really feel like that relationship that they have, that rapport that they have, I feel is starting to really build. I think there's some trust there now too, because here's the thing, like, yeah, is Kyle Pitts the guy that he came in as a rookie, running a 4.4, a sub 4.4 or 4.4 speed, 4.40 coming out? I don't think so. But I think that, it takes a couple of years for you to come off those injuries to come back to be fully healthy and who you were before, if not even better, given it all of the research now. But I think that how Arthur Smith is positioning him now, I think that's what helped Desmond Ridder in that relationship, because if you look at going back and looking at all the completions to Kyle Pitts in the last couple of games, he's been lined up either in the slot or he's been in line next to that tackle. And I think that, that kind of gives you a different type of rapport with lining up on the X and the Z on the corner. Like, he doesn't have that yet. I don't feel like he's in a space where he can win those matchups on the outside. So you move him down, you move him closer to the line of scrimmage, or even line him up as a tight end, who he is, what his position is. And I think that's what makes the reads a lot easier, because when you have a 6'6" guy, 230 pounds, rumbling down there, it's easy for him to kind of channel that thing down, sit down in those zones, and you put the ball right on him, and you can average, 12 yards a pop, like he did, and lead the team in receptions like he did on Sunday.
Yeah. And Aaron, I think one of the things that'll also add to that chemistry and just that confidence and that comfort is being home again. So I think that one of the things that could make you more confident that Dez is able to maybe build on what we saw this week is what we'll see next week, because he's home again. 31-0 is not exactly a fluke number, especially been 5-0 that is with the Falcons themselves at the Benz. So I don't know about you, but whether or not that's manufactured confidence because he's at home or not, I loved it. I think it's actually beneficial to both Desmond Ridder and the Falcons that they do have another home game, right? Before he has to go back on the road, because it gives him an opportunity to get that much more confidence, that much more rhythm, all that comfort for when he goes back into another hostile environment.
Yeah, I think what Tori said is, it'll be interesting, a month or two from now, what we're looking back at this point as sort of the turning point in the season. Yeah. And I think you're right, Tenitra. Like, getting another home game where Desmond Ridder has been mostly good, right? Things were in the first 2 weeks were a little shaky in the first 3 quarters, but like in the fourth quarter when they needed him to make the plays that he needed to win the game, he made the plays, and we saw that again on Sunday. He made progress in the first 3 quarters, right? And so you want to see that build to see good Desmond Ridder in the first 3 quarters and continue to do that in the fourth quarter. But even if he does that next week, we're still going to have that question about, well, now you got to do it on the road, right? And so like, I think it's just kind of like stacking days. You hear it all the time in training camp. He's like, you just got to stack days. And like, it's now with Desmond Ridder, you just have to stack games. And like, I feel much more confident about Desmond Ridder at home. I'm still, don't know about Desmond Ridder on the road, but I do think if he can start to put together 2 games in a row, then it makes you feel a little better. Okay, well, when they go back on the road, maybe that can be 3 games in a row. And if he does that, then all of a sudden it's like, okay, something's really, moving in the right direction for this team.
Yeah, that means that you're seeing that true growth and not just maybe within a particular vacuum. But yeah, until that time, Aaron, I'm just going to call him 404 Des and 4-quarter Des until further notice. But anyway, you talk about a comfort zone as well. Obviously, there's pretty much a comfort zone with the run protection that the Falcons O-line provides, particularly Kaleb MCGary. Obviously, that's his stronger suit than maybe his pass protection. Although we got to give it to the O-line and really all of the protection overall that Desmond Ridder received yesterday. But we did have a little moment of hesitation, right? Yesterday when Kaleb MCGary went down with a knee injury. Now, he was on the bike. And, we talked to Tori pre-show just to kind of confirm with her being out at Flowery today that, hey, we don't think that there's going to be anything long-term that's going to be an issue. But I will ask kind of 2 questions, Tori. A, if it turns out to be something long-term, then is it a Storm Norton? Like, is he going to be okay? Or do you feel like the Falcons are going to have to kind of go out and find somebody to replace him? And B, what did you make of Kaleb MCGary and the O-line's performance before he went out? Is there concern in both of those areas, confidence? Kind of what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I think for me, it's funny because as the game went on, I didn't realize how significant protection was for this team on Sunday. It's one of those things that if you don't notice it, that's probably a good thing. Like if you don't, when it comes,
you don't hear names called, that's
right?
a good
Yeah,
thing.
it's like if you're not talking about the offensive line, it's probably a good thing. So I really do think that when Storm Norton came in for Kaleb MCGary, I didn't necessarily notice a huge difference, and I think that's a good thing for someone like Storm Norton, and as well as moving forward, if Kaleb MCGary is, according to what happens with him, still feeling like, okay, we have depth. And then that was something that I didn't necessarily feel when Kaleb MCGary is okay, Kaleb MCGary is questionable with a knee injury.
Yeah.
That tackle spot was a spot that I'm looking at on the depth chart and I'm like, I don't know how much depth is there, but I didn't necessarily think that Storm Norton didn't perform well. I actually thought he did pretty well. I mean, again, sack numbers don't necessarily tell the whole story. You can look at this Falcons defense and understand that. They don't have the sack numbers right now, but they sure as heck are affecting the quarterback. But for me, it also goes along to Desmond Ridder's comfort in the scheme too. I think he was getting the ball out really well. I think he was seeing the routes really well. I think timing was really good. I mean, all of those things go along with protection. So for me, I'm not overly concerned at this point right now, considering how I felt like they looked on Sunday.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that, and there were moments in time, there was this one rollout that Des Ridder did, and I was like, yeah. And I saw 1 or 2 seconds of patience, just enough for his pass catcher to get open. So yeah, if you see things like that with your quarterback, that growth that we're all talking about, it does make you less concerned about the Kaleb MCGary injury, should it turn out to be something that is, I don't want to say long-term, Tori, because I trust what we're being told, but if it's something to where, hey, but he does have to sit out a game, at least you feel comfortable and confident that Storm Norton and really that offensive collective can be what Des Ridder needs them to be come Sunday. So yeah,
also,
I think
great name, Storm Norton. Love that.
Right? Stormed in and did his thing. I know, didn't want to be corny. I was trying so hard not to be corny. But anyway, again, we are always excited when we can deep dive, and instead of having more concerns, we actually have more confidence. So listen, when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about who got next, rapid fire style, right here on the Atlanta Football Party. But first, Jarvis is going to tell us all about Jace Medical.
Folks, listen up. Jarvis here for JaceMedical.com. How about this, guys? I'm tell y'all something. I have kids, so sometimes the kids get a little sick. It's that time of year, coughing, all that stuff going on and everything like that. How about this? Don't get caught unprepared, because everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. Because I know I love my babies. I hate to see them sick like that. I promise you I do. I really do. So, Jace handles everything from online evaluation to licensed pharmacy medication delivery and ongoing consultation and care. So here's what you need to do. Jace Care provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use. All it takes is to get a Jace case is fill out a simple online form, and in some cases, jump on a quick call with one of our board-certified physicians. So yes, people, make sure you go to jacemedical.com, and guess what? All you got to do is use the promo code Locked On for $20 off. So give yourself some peace of mind with a Jace case, and go to jacemedical.com, enter the promo code Locked On for $20 off.
Seems like a cool deal. Seems like a cool deal because, hey, we're always on the move, each and every one of us. So it's nice to know that we can have something that might help us out in a pinch. But yeah, let's talk about, speaking of someone in a pinch, the Commanders. All right. They're coming into this Sunday's game swooning, 3 straight losses. Guys, rapid fire. How do the Falcons handle Washington and hand them their 4th loss in a row?
Dare I say, I may be jumping to conclusions here a little bit too fast, but throw the football, because the Chicago Bears offense has been awful. And Justin Fields looked like doggone Peyton Manning out there. He was slinging the ball all around the yard. Everybody was open. And Washington
PJ Moore was just having a game of his life.
Emmanuel Forbes, everybody, Bears fans were starting to say, hey, yeah, man, let's keep Justin. Let's keep him going. Fire the coach, but let's keep Justin. Like I'm talking about, they're changing lives, the Washington Commanders defense out there. So I think that, coming into this game, I feel like, the Falcons may be able to take advantage of that passing game, because that's what they were able to do against the Houston Texans, because they're not the best team as far as from a coverage standpoint, but because those guys were selling out against the run. Like D'Amico Ryans was saying, he must show them videos of you're not going to run the football on us, over and over and over again, because those guys were jumping off sides trying to get there, man. So you just saw the aggressiveness in that. So, and I think that the Falcons need to be able to take advantage of, like Aaron mentioned, in that play action. So I really feel like, hey, come into this game saying, yeah, we want to run the football and all that good stuff, but hey, if we see that they're going to be susceptible to the pass that like we used to them seeing in that space, I promise you, Arthur Smith needs to take advantage of that guy.
I would agree. Now, listen, Aaron, we can say take advantage of those guys for Washington, and I tell you that R word almost came out. Commanders, not the R word, Commanders. But also, I think that going back to something Tori said. Yes, we would absolutely love to see the pressure result in a defensive, and that can be anybody, front seven, line, whatever, but you would expect them, hope for them to get home. However, if they bring pressure, Sam Howell gets shook real fast. And that's kind of the thing that when I pulled away from the Thursday game, because at some point you just got to turn it off, right? But when I pulled away, I thought ahead, I'll be honest, and said, I think there are going to be some cooking, some folks getting home when they come here in 2 weeks. So I kind of got excited about the game. But anyway, that said, we're always still saying there's one guy who needs to step up. Who's the guy who's going to be able to step up? We talked offense, like Tori said. What about defense? Who's the guy on defense that you're like, all right, step up. Time to get paid. Time to make some money.
Yeah, I think whoever's going to cover Terry McLaurin is going to be the guy. Right? Because I know, because I got Terry McLaurin on one of my fantasy teams. I know he's not putting up the numbers that I would like him to put up, and I hope that continues another week. But he is a dangerous player. He has given the Falcons a lot of fits the last couple of times we've played Washington. That fortunately we got the half of the connection, the Taylor Heineke connection here in Atlanta. So hopefully it kind of derails that a little bit. And Sam Howell hasn't built that connection with Terry McLaurin quite yet, and hopefully that continues this week. And, we've seen AJ Terrell really do a great job this season, even though, there's been a couple of hiccups here or there. But this is a really good matchup. I would kind of love to see the Falcons shadow Terry McLaurin with AJ Terrell. We really haven't seen it the last couple of times, and it's been to the Falcons' detriment, I think, in a lot of ways. So I think if he can sort of lock down Terry McLaurin, that will go a long way to really keeping a lid on this Washington offense.
Yeah, and hopefully we get him back healthy, because that was a scary moment in the game yesterday afternoon. But yeah, hopefully you get a healthy AJ Terrell McLaurin. And yeah, I think we might be hitting pay dirt. Now, speaking of hitting pay dirt, the NFL has hit pay dirt with Taylor Swift. So yeah, Jarvis, you're going to have to wrap us up with a little Taylor Swift commentary. So Donna Kelce is shaking it off, speaking of, right? Because there's been all this attention on the Kelce boys, particularly Travis Kelce, and if he is or is not attached to Taylor Swift, and how. So now some hateration is coming forward, where people are starting to say they're tired of the Kelces, especially if they're really into, of course, their other teams, right? And she said, hey, why wouldn't we capitalize? Why wouldn't the NFL capitalize? It's all good. Are you still good with this? Or are you one of those people who's like, you know what? I'm really sick of this. I'm really tired of the Kelces. I'm tired of the Swifties. I am just tired.
Well, for me, like, I don't really care, to be honest with you, like, because the football games are still being played. Like, it's all good. But the main thing for me, though, because, from a male perspective now, she done met the mama. Like, when you meet mama, it better be real.
Did she really meet her?
Because I can literally count on one hand how many women have met my mother. Like, you know what I'm saying? I was, used to do my thing back in the day. So, you don't bring too many, hey, don't duck your head on me. Don't duck your head on me, Tori. Don't do me like that.
I'm just laughing. This is hilarious.
So let me get to my point so I can stop talking and shut up. But yeah, I think that, I just hope it's real, because, like, you don't just bring anybody home to mama. Like, she kicking it with mom in the suite and stuff like that. As long as this is genuinely trying to hang out, turn into a relationship and all, they ain't got to get married, nothing like that. But if y'all having a nice relationship for a nice little 6 months to a year or something like that, I'm cool with it. But if this was kind of like for a song and dance and, sell some albums or something like that, like, that's when I have an issue with it. But other than
there's
that,
no song and dance that Taylor Swift, or Beyonce for that matter, but anyway, that Taylor Swift has to ever do to sell an album. Like, Taylor Swift is the truth, point blank, period. She never has to do that. But I love Donna Kelce's response to the quote unquote haters, if you will. She said, you know what? It doesn't matter, because people are going to be either jealous or tired of it or whatever. They can make whatever comments they want, because guess whose opinion matters? Mine. They get it from their mama, because if you know those Kelce boys, they are a little bit saucy as well. Listen, we appreciate you guys stopping by this Atlanta football party, but why stop here? You can come back tomorrow. We'll have another Atlanta football party where we are talking dogs. And don't forget, you can check out any and all of our parties on the Locked On Sports Atlanta Network, wherever you get your podcast. For Tori, Aaron, Jarvis, I am Tenitra, and we will see you guys next week. And we're just going to go ahead and claim it. We'll have another It's a Party situation, because it's going to be a dub in the Benz come Sunday. Be safe.